Kerala, from Chenganur, and actually from the Pernakara part of Chenganur. The house name, the Vettupper, is Onapallil, and some of you may know people from Onapallil house, or some of you may know people from other houses with which our family relatives are associated, such as Thorlel or Pondaseril or Kalumpat. And if so, it will be very good to speak with you over lunch or whatever. One of the unmistakable signs of being a Malayali is the first time you meet another Malayali, they want to know where in Kerala you are from. That's the first question. And the second question is, what is your Vettupper? Now, I was born and brought up in Delhi, as a result of which, and my father was from North India. So my real common languages are Hindi and Punjabi and Urdu. But of course, Malayalatila ella manasalam. It takes about a week for me in Kerala to get back to speaking Malayalam. But growing up in Delhi, it was of course quite special to be part of a Malayali family which was also a North Indian family. Very special because it was extremely unusual at that time for people to marry across language lines and across religious lines. My father came from a traditional Hindu family, and my mother came from a Syrian Christian family. And so growing up in Delhi, that was very unusual because you did not quite belong in the Kerala lot, and you did not quite belong in the UP lot. But it meant that as I was growing up, I found myself part of a larger and larger group of people who were, in fact, marrying across language barriers and across religious barriers, and therefore creating India for the first time. Till then, we had been a conglomeration of groups of people from different languages and religions and castes and all the rest of it. And we could say that India is still in the process of being formed, couldn't we? As people get to know each other, as people intermarry with each other, as people learn each other's music and food and customs and so on. So India has become a very rich kaleidoscope of colors, of music, of dance, of art, of literature, and so on, as a result of the efforts of pioneers of India going back, I would say, to the 19th century. Now, I grew up as a result of my father dying when I was 8, in a family where we went from being very well-to-do to being literally on the streets. So I have actually spent 2 nights on the streets, and thank God only 2 nights, but that was thanks to Muslim families who took us in, which is quite interesting. And I went to 8 different schools between the time my father died when I was 8 and 16 when I entered college. And the reason I went to 8 different schools was, of course, that we were trying to find our way through life. My mother was working very hard to bring us up, sometimes 24 hours a day. She was a nurse by profession, and after my father died, she had to go back to working. And the duty hours for a nurse in those days were 12 hours if she was not a staff nurse. So if she was what was called a special nurse, that meant if somebody had an accident or was very rich and needed to be particularly taken care of because of a heart operation or something like that, then of course there were 2 special nurses who looked after the person, usually one overnight and one during the day. And the difficulty with being a special nurse was that you were not a staff nurse, so you did not know where your next duty was going to come from, call for duty was going to come from. The advantage was that it was very well paid. And so in our family growing up, in my family after my father's death, growing up, it was always fast, or feast. Fast if there was no work for my mother, feast if there was work for my mother. And we used to say that if my mother got one duty a month, we could survive. If she got 2 duties a month, we could survive quite well. If she got 3 duties a month, we could afford to pay the school fees. If she got 4 duties a month, then we could, do some extra things like repair things that needed repairing around the house, or actually buy some clothes. And if she got 5 duties a month, then we were swimming in luxury. So it was quite interesting, but of course I was the eldest boy. And as I was the eldest boy, I had to be responsible for my younger brother and my younger sister. And it was only when I went to university that for the first time, to college, that for the first time I had any kind of systematic intellectual development. And all that I am today, I put down to my college years at St. Stephen's. Well, the years came and went, and I started teaching at St. Stephen's, and then I started teaching at the Northeastern Hill University in Shillong. And as has been mentioned, in 1976, I was a political exile from India, which is a very fascinating story. Someday I must write about it. But I was given the choice of joining the party or leaving the country on the intervention of my Vice-Chancellor, who became aware that I was on the list for elimination and intervened personally with Mrs. Gandhi to make sure that I would not be eliminated. But I was given the choice of joining the party or leaving the country. So you can imagine that I have certain things that I stood for and certain things that I spoke out about. And I have tried to be, in my life, to stand for those values. And as a result of that, I'm going to tell you some things that may interest you, which I hope illustrate that. In 1979, January, when my wife died, I was, of course, full of grief in the way that you might expect. And it was only in May 2019 that I started lifting up my head from my grief. And as I did so, I thought I must do something in my wife's memory. What shall I do? I was, of course, quite depressed, and if I was not able to think clearly, but I was thinking about that. And that was the time when news came that Modi ji had been re-elected Prime Minister of India, this time with an absolute majority. And you may think I was right, or you may think I was wrong, but the thought that was going through my head at that stage was, India is going into darkness, and I do not know how long that darkness is going to last. This was a thought in my head. Is the darkness going to last 5 years? Is it going to last 50 years? Who knows? Anyway, the two thoughts sort of came together in my mind, and I received what I thought was very clear guidance from God, that I should start a publishing house in memory of my wife, dedicated to nurturing democratic and humane values among Indians, and people of Indian origin, of course, abroad. I was at that stage 70 years old, and I had no experience of publishing, no knowledge of publishing at all. So the whole journey from there to now has been an extraordinary journey, full of real miracles, as a result of which I now have a global distribution system for my book, physical books. And other publishers who've been in business very much longer than me are coming to me for distributing their books, which is quite fascinating. Some of the miracles, it would take me a long time to tell you all of them, but I just want to illustrate that by giving you one miracle that happened. One of my friends, whom I had known for about 40 years at this stage, rang me up one day and said that it was the 40th anniversary of a magazine that he had started. This magazine is called Resurgence Magazine, and it's the oldest magazine which focuses on environmental issues, certainly in the United Kingdom, perhaps around the world. And as it was the 40th anniversary, they had organized a small conference. And at this conference, various eminent people had spoken. And so the thought had come to them that it would be very good to collect the speeches of these very eminent people and put them together in a book. And then one of their trustees said, well, this is all very well, but you know, these people are old. We should make sure there are some younger people in the book as well. And so they organized an essay competition for students, for young people. And the best essays from these young people were put together with the speeches from these very eminent people for a book. And he was ringing me up to ask if I would publish the book. Now, to be quite frank with you, I was actually not interested in publishing this book. From a publisher's point of view. Why? Because single author books are relatively easy to sell. Multi-author books, you would think would be easier to sell because there are so many authors pushing the book. But in fact, that is not the case. In fact, multi-author books are much more difficult to sell. I did not know that from personal experience. This is what my advisors had told me. So I was very hesitant to publish the book. But when an old friend of more than 40 years, editor of such a magazine, comes to you and says, would you publish this book? It's very difficult to say no. So I said yes, hesitantly, but I said yes. And we worked our way through all the usual problems of publishing a book, which is you need a very good cover. When you go to a bookstall and you're trying to buy a book, an attractive cover is of course a great incentive or a great something that encourages you to buy that book, doesn't it? The title of a book is very important, because if the title isn't right, you will be off track in knowing what is in the book. You need not just a book cover and a good title, you need to make sure that the contents are well presented. And so you need to get the book packaged, ready for the printer. All this had been done when Satish Kumar, the gentleman who was concerned, my friend, rang me up and said, Prabhu, please stop work on all the book immediately. I thought, oh no, what has happened? I've obviously done something wrong. I said, what's the matter? He said, I'm going to Rome. He is, by the way, a Jain monk. Well, he was a Jain monk and then he stopped being a Jain monk because he wanted to get married and settle down and so on, which he did. But he is, you know, deeply Jain. Why are you going to Rome? Have you become Roman Catholic? He said, no, I've not become Roman Catholic. I've been invited by the Pope to speak at a conference there. What's the conference about? Well, the conference is looking at the perspectives of different religions on the environmental crisis. And I, that is Satish Kumar, have been invited to Rome to speak from a Jain point of view. You can imagine the thought going through my head. So why is he wanting to stop work on the book? But he was in a hurry. He said, I'll be back in touch with you in 3 days. When he came back from the conference. All right, 3 days is not such a big delay in printing a book. So I put the phone down, and 3 days later he rings me up, and he says, Prabhu, now you can go ahead with the book. Puzzling, you know, he went to a conference, he's come back, you know, why did he want me to stop for 3 days? He says, and we have a foreword by the Pope for this book. So the first of my books, with a foreword by anybody as eminent as the Pope, was because of Satish Kumar being invited to the Vatican to speak at this conference. Now, if I had wanted to approach the Vatican and say to the Pope's secretariat, please could the Pope write a foreword for this book, you can imagine what would have happened. Nothing, right? Similarly, another of my books has a foreword by the Dalai Lama, and it was a somewhat similar story, where I had nearly finished work on the book, and the editor of the book said to me, stop, something important is happening, and we'll be back in touch with you in a few days. And the important thing that was happening was a foreword to the book by the Dalai Lama. Now it's astonishing how often when I meet people and they realize that I'm the publisher of this book or the Dalai Lama, the credit comes to me. I'm of course very happy to take the credit, but the credit doesn't really belong to me at all. It belongs to the people who got the permission. My time is nearly up, but I'd like to mention one Malayali author that I've published. And the Malayali author is Dr. Verghese Mathai, who has been a career academic with a PhD from Baylor University, and then he has taught at the University of Minneapolis and various other universities, and is currently a professor at Judson University in Chicago. He's been a friend for many years. We met at the University of Minneapolis when I was a visiting professor, and he was of course in the faculty. And we got to know each other, and we got on well, as a result of which, when my mother came to the US, because my brother and my sister were at that stage here in the US, he invited my mother, even though he'd never met her, to visit them in Minneapolis, and then later in Chicago, and my mother went and stayed with them, and then of course they came and stayed with us, so we became very close family friends. Well, he rings me up one day and says, Prabhu, you know of these stories that I've been telling at the start of every single class? I actually didn't know anything about the stories with which he started every single class, but apparently, before he began anything in teaching, whichever subject it was, he would always start with a story. And he became famous for these stories that he told. And he said many of his students didn't remember anything about the lectures that he gave, but remembered the stories. And some of them, if they missed the class, were not interested in finding out what he had taught, but they were interested in finding out what the story had been. And so many people were waiting and urging him to compile all the stories in a book. And his request to me was, would I consider publishing such a collection? And I did. So the book is called The Village Maestro and 100 Other Stories. These are actually micro stories, very short stories. Some of them only a page long, some of them 4 or 5 pages long. And the great thing about the book is that it is not only sold out in its American editions, but also in its Indian editions, and has had very good reviews, so I'm delighted about that. But the reason I'm mentioning that is not that book which I've published. The reason I'm mentioning that is another book that he has just published on Mahakavi K.V. Simon. Now, I don't know how many of you have heard of Mahakavi K.V. Simon, but there are not many Mahakavis in our literature, in Malayali literature, and he was one of them. He was a great writer of poetry, and he is such a popular writer of poetry that some of his poems, converted into songs, have been featured in Malayalam films. His book is published by Bloomsbury, and if you do not know about Mahakavi Simon, then all I can say is shame on you. You should be aware of Mahakavi Simon, and you should get hold of the book and read it. It is actually the first book in English that has ever been published on Mahakavi Simon. Loads of books have been published, of course, on Mahakavi Simon in Malayalam, but his poetry has never been translated into English. His biography, a proper biography of him, has never been published in English. And here is a book that is both a biography and a translation of his Malayalam poems into English. So you find the poems in Malayalam, in the Malayalam script, but you also find them then translated into English. So I commend that book to you, and the great thing is it is not published by me, and so I am not going to get anything out of it. But I do commend the book to you. On that note, I will stop if I may, and thank the President and Mr. George Abraham, the Secretary, and all members of your committee for having invited me to speak here, and to say how much I appreciate this initiative of yours, particularly because you are honoring members of the community. If I may say so, it is a very un-Indian thing to do. We Indians are notorious for neglecting people who have done signal service to us, with very, very, very few exceptions. Even when you look at a great filmmaker like Satyajit Ray, When did we Indians start honoring him? Only when he started winning prizes in film festivals abroad. I think it's a great thing you people are doing, and I want to commend you for that, and I appreciate it very much indeed. Thank you.
That book?
Sorry? The name of the book by Varghese Mathai on Mahakavi Simon is The Milton of the East. The Milton of the East. John Milton was a very famous poet in English. Mahakavi K.V. Simon, The Milton of the East. And it's published by Bloomsbury here in Leeds. Thank you very much.
Because one of our fellow Indian citizens, while landing at the Boston airport, was apprehended, and he is at the local precinct, and he was designated by the ambassador to, I have to introduce you.
Yeah, go ahead.
To explore further as to what the status is and all that. And Jason has been doing the same thing for the last couple of months. Every time he calls me, he's either in one prison in New Hampshire, doing some research on people who are apprehended here, our fellow Indians, unfortunately. So he's not here, but he has authorized me to convey his regards to all of you, especially to the President and also the Secretary and the Executive Committee of Pioneer Club. And it has been a tradition of the Pioneer Club gatherings to have the representation from the Indian Consulate. Ever since Devadas and I back in 2018, he was here, he was the community council, then succeeded by A.K. Vijayakrishnan. He has been with us a couple of times. Having said that, I'd like to introduce our fellow New Yorker, a wonderful dynamic leader of the Kerala community, the Indian community and Indian American community, Mr. I should say advocate, or the lawyer here, Mr. Koshio Thomas. Koshio Thomasനെ കുറിച്ച് പറയുമ്പോൾ ന്യൂയോർക്ക് മലയാളി കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയുടെ വിവിധ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളിൽ കഴിഞ്ഞ ദീർഘവർഷങ്ങളായിട്ട് ശക്തമായ നേതൃത്വം നൽകുന്ന ഒരു വ്യക്തിയാണ് അദ്ദേഹം. നമുക്കെല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം, ക്യൂൻസിലെ ഇന്ത്യ ഡേ പരേഡ് ആരംഭിച്ച സമയത്ത് നമ്മളെല്ലാം ബഹുമാനിക്കുന്ന നമ്മുടെ ചാക്കോച്ചായനോടൊപ്പം VM ചാക്കോയോടൊപ്പം കോഷിയും ഉണ്ടായിരുന്ന FB മാഫ്രോൾ പാർക്ക് ബെൽഗ്രോസ് ഇന്ത്യൻ മർച്ചന്റ് അസോസിയേഷൻ്റെ പ്രസിഡന്റായിട്ട് അദ്ദേഹത്തെ കഴിഞ്ഞ വർഷം തിരഞ്ഞെടുത്തു. ഇന്ത്യയുടെ പരേഡിൻ്റെ പ്രസിഡന്റും കൂടിയാണ് അദ്ദേഹം. അതുപോലെ വളരെ വിജയകരമായ രീതിയിൽ ഇന്ത്യയുടെ പരേഡ് നടത്തുവാൻ, എസ്പെഷ്യലി ലാസ്റ്റ് ഇയറിൽ നടത്തുവാൻ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് സാധിച്ചു. ഒട്ടേറെ മലയാളി കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി അസോസിയേഷൻസിൻ്റെ ഫ്ലോട്ട് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. കൂടാതെ വിവിധ രംഗങ്ങളിൽ അദ്ദേഹം പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അദ്ദേഹത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് ഞാൻ പറയുമ്പോൾ ഈസ് എ ലോ ഗ്രാജുവേറ്റ് ഫ്രം ദ Truro College, and recently he has been assigned as the special assistant to New York State Assembly member Mr. Ed Brownstein. He is also a district attorney council, a member of the district advisory council of the district attorney in Queens. He is a board member of the Queens Bureau, and he is the national vice president of the American Multi-Ethnic Coalition. And also he is associated with a number of organizations here like WMC, IAMC and the like. On behalf of Pioneer Club, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Koshi O. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas T. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. I say this almost in every meetings now, because every second, every minute, every day, or even every month and years, it's a gift of God. Without His blessing, we cannot move even for a second. And I'm actually a person who has got all the blessings right from my childhood, and that has been my strength. I was born in Kerala, brought up in Madras, and during my Madras life, my strength was from the church, and from the church members and the Malayali community in Madras. Wherever I go, whatever I do, I always had a guidance, sometimes even scoldings, saying, Ranji, what you're doing this is very good. What you're doing on the other side is not good. So I had checkpoints wherever I go, in any part of the city, because it's a bigger community. You all know the first generation of Malayalis, instead of going to Bombay or Dubai, they first settled in Madras. My father settled in Madras in his age of 14. I know we all have the practice of moving out of Kerala in the young age. That's the immigration community, first batch into Kerala. So from there, I grew up with the guidance of the community. The reason why I'm saying here now is, fortunately, as I landed in New York, I got acquaintance with our own community first, and the strength and the guidance I have got, and I'm still getting that. That has become the strength, energy, and the growth, even to the minimum possible way what I have achieved. So when you talk about the community, we actually compare the other associations and friends and the community. Now when I look at Pioneer Club, this is the fatherly, the motherly, brotherly, sisterly association which brings and has stretched connections with almost all other associations. But when we go to the core group, of our community, I see the representation right here. Everybody is here. If I start saying the names, almost everybody in this audience now, you all are represented and representatives from other organizations also. Your joint efforts has brought our community to the best possible way. We have reached a lot. We have grown a lot. I hear the stories in the past of our first generation. We interact with Mr. George Abraham, Mr. V.M. Chacko, Mr. Thomas T. Umman, Reverend Wilson, almost everybody. We all have stories to share, and we say, when we came, it was the most hardship. We never had anybody, but now we have almost everything what we need by the grace of God. Now we want to share it to the community. That's the reason we are here. It's not just an assembly, it's not just an annual dinner, it's not just an annual get-together. It is passing on the message saying that we, big, strong group is here. Anybody in need, please get in touch. We can do so many things. I know you are doing a lot, especially when it came to my city council primary election, almost everybody in this group participated and supported. That's the only reason I could walk ahead. That strength, to make our voice heard in the New York City. Even though I did not get elected, we have formed a foundation that if anything needed in the New York City Council, if anything needed in the State Assembly, I can proudly say that anything needed, I can get, or we can get together, at least to the minimum possible. There were a time that we were hiding, we used to greet all our elected members and all that, but at the end of the day, when we needed something, we didn't have the proper connection. So we have that, and that's actually the dedication and the service of senior leaders, of our, especially here today, the Pioneer Club members and the leaders, especially Mr. President, Mr. Johnny Zakaria, Secretary, Mr. Raju Varghese Abraham. We know they had worked day and night. I spoke to them a couple of times in the last few weeks. It's not easy to organize an event. It's not an easy task to start the event on time. That shows that the event has been planned well and it's going good and it is going to the utmost service and to the decor. So that's what it is. Johnny Zakaria and Raju Varghese Abraham and VMC, Mr. George Abraham, all these people, day and night, they have put their energy. So let's enjoy the output, the cream, and let's stay with them, stand with them, and let's continue our efforts to promote peace, harmony, and also to give guidance for people like me, and also there's younger generation coming up. Every individual, you can actually have at least 10 people. So that guidance, it's not just by financial, the guidance, the knowledge, the experience you have, all those things matter. So you are transforming that. That's a great achievement. That's the great thing what you are doing, and I really appreciate. And also I want to say a few words about the opportunity to listen to Professor Prabhu Guptara. His experience, what we heard here, is actually an enormous achievement. Even though, his father's side from North India and all that, I have a personal suggestion. Sir, if you want to get more, fluency in speaking Malayalam, even though you are going to be in UK, take a membership here. You will have more influence in Malayalam. Okay, that's why I joined, and I'm catching up. So with all of that, best wishes for all the honorees, and it's a great achievement. See, when you see something, when you see something good, you have to really appreciate, whether it's a kid or learned or grown up. When you recognize somebody, that's really a motivation. Now, apart from that, let me convey the greetings from my assembly member, Ed Bronstein. He's actually representing District 26. Actually, his district is actually north of Hillside Avenue, going towards Bayside, Bay Terrace, Bay Hill, and some part of Douglaston and all that. But anything needed, please, let's unite together. We can put our hands together, and we can prosper together. So his special greetings for the success of the celebration happening here, and also best wishes, his best wishes for all of you, especially to the honorees who have done the best to do whatever they can to put a mark on the community. Thank you so much. I'll stay on the side and I'll follow the guidance. Thank you all.
We are running a little late, even though we started on time. Come to the stage. Mr. John Paul to come to the stage. And Ms. Lorna Abraham come to the stage. So all the plaque will be received from Professor Guptara and the citation from Mr. Koshio Thomas. So first in the list is Mr. V.M. Chako. Mr. V.M. Chako is from Thodupuzha. He's a well-known community member who has dedicated much of his life to helping others and always finding ways to Malayalis to participate in mainstream American activities. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Matthew V. Zachariah to come forward and Mrs. Anis John to come forward. Anis John, please come. Again, it will be safe to walk through the sides, or if you still want to come to the front, we can help you out. And this is going to welcome Mr. Chako, V.M. Chako, by giving the flower. Just stay for a picture. Just stay for a picture. Now I invite Mr. Matthew V. Zachariah to introduce him properly. Thank you.
These three guys, you might call three wise men, three stooges, or three musketeers, started our humble beginning in a one-room studio apartment at 600 West 113th Street, Broadway, Manhattan, in this great nation under God in 1969. V.M. Chako from Thodupuzha, renowned George Abraham from Chenganur, Matthew V. Zachariah from the heart of Kutanad, Edatwa. I am Matthew V. Zachariah. Out of three, Chako Chen is the pragmatic person of wisdom and knowledge to promote others to their potentials. A devout man with humanity, husband of Dr. Lizzie, father and grandfather. His relationship, social connectivity and fellowship with all of us well appreciated. He keeps everyone in harmony. Chako Chen organized the first Onam celebration in this country with hash brown cutlet and ethical appam, coffee and Coca-Cola. From Bronx, Chako Chen proceeded to Brooklyn. George Abraham remained in Bronx while I
moved to Woodside Hills. Chakotan never forgets his roots. He never gets puffed up with all the hoopla. Yes, Chakotan is a pioneer in every aspect. 20 years ago, Chakotan called me, and the first question he asked me was, Kunyune, the Chakotan, are you still married to the same woman? It really brought me. Yes, Chakotan, by the grace of God, over 50 years now. And then he said, Kunyune, with Kunyumon, that is George Abraham, Achoy, and Chiruveli, we are planning to have what we call a pioneer club. Kunyune, you should come. He knows that I live about 150 miles from here. And he said, please, we need you. So I came. The first meeting took place at his apartment in Bayside, second in Chiruveli's house, and that's how the Pioneer Club was formalized. Okay. And now, it was in 1970. Chakotan did a lot of things. I mean, you all experienced one way or other his encounter. So I'm not going to elaborate it. You know, he will get maybe puffed up now. I don't want him to get puffed up. But the honest thing is, two things I want to mention. In 1970, there was a person on a student visa, and he became the victim of leukemia. People like us did not know what to do. I remember Chakotan, he was married, he left his wife and a couple of children in Kottayam. Chakotan initiated to have a little fundraising for this young man to go back to India with a pocket full of money. Let me tell you, that was the first fundraising I ever saw. He was called to our apartment, gave him the money to go back and to start a small business. That was one story. Secondly, you all know, there were 5 beautiful homes built in Thodupuzha. That was the effort by Chakotan through his Vellaringat family and Lizzie to give that 5 beautiful homes for the needy ones. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor, it is my privilege to introduce my friend, your friend, our friend, Vellaringat Matthew Chako, otherwise known as V.M. Chako or Chakotan.
Professor Guptara to present the plaque, and Mr. Koshia Thomas to present the citation. Now I request Mr. V.M. Chako to say a few words. Really only few words. Thank you. Yes, I'm sorry. The next citation.
Thank you very much for this award. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of my friends, Pioneer Club members, especially our Honorable President Johnny Sakaria, Honorable Secretary, my good friend Raju. A special thanks to my where is Johnny? Johnny, Mati Sakaria. Kunyunye, special thanks to you because you came all the way from 150 miles away from New York City. Thank you very much. Thank you for everybody. Thanks. Thanks again.
The next honoree is Professor Joseph M. Cherveli, to be introduced by Advocate Vinod KRK, and welcome flower by Mrs. Usha George. Please welcome Usha George. Mr. Vinod KRK to introduce Professor Joseph M. Cherveli. Thank you.
Good afternoon and warmest holiday greetings to each and every one. President Johnny Sakaria, Secretary Raju, all other distinguished guests, our keynote speaker, Dr. Professor Guptanas. It is indeed a pleasure to be here. First of all, let me say a big thank you to the organizers of this event. I really appreciate Professor Guptana being here, and your journey is really an amazing one. From a low beginning to the top, it is really an inspiration for all of us. Congratulations, 8 awardees who really contributed in so many ways to our community. We are all, most of us, enjoying our golden years. We are reviewing our past deeds and actions. We may have different school of thoughts, but we do not have enough time to debate each other. But still we have time to greet each other, to love each other, to respect each other, and to comfort each other. Think our days are numbered. So many of our friends really has gone from our life. So please, there is no room to argue each other. Please love each other. Please respect each other. Being said so, it is my humble, I am blessed and privileged to introduce Professor Joseph M. Cherveli, we usually call Cherveli sir, to you all. I know him for last 2 decades. From the day I became the member of Kerala Samajam. He is a mentor to me. He is an advisor to me for each and every step that I have taken in any of the organizations. He has given me an advice. Personally speaking, he is a mentor to me. He is a mentor to all of us. He was a professor at St. John's University. He is a very good orator, as well as he is a good author also. So let me read what he has given to our community. Professor Cheruveli was born in Kuttanad and migrated to this country in the year 1960. He was in Chicago for 2 years, followed in Mississippi for 3 years, and from 1965 he was in New York teaching. He was a professor of St. John's University, and he was a gold medal recipient of gold medal for outstanding achievements in teaching from St. John's University. He served as Grand Marshal at the university, his 135th convocation in the year 2005. He was the founding member of American Sargavedi, a founding member of Kerala Samajam in the year 1972. And he was the member of Bharat Board Club. Not only that, he was the director of Malayalam School in St. John's University. He has established a couple of endowments. One is the Sacred Heart College in Tevada, and namely Professor Joseph Cheruveli Endowment, and another one in Echumanu Appan College, and another one at Virthakulagara. That's also in Echumanu. Another endowment named Professor Joseph Cheruveli Endowment. He has written an autobiography in 2014. It is A Passage to America. Moreover, we all came by flight. I think he is the only one person who has come by ship. Whenever you talk to him, yes, you came by ship. And you might have spent almost 10 days in the ship. How many days? 30 days? He spent 45 days in the ship. While we cannot stand sitting in the flight for 18 hours. Yeah, as Koshi mentioned to me, he saw Vasco da Gama from Kerala, India. With much ado, it is my pleasure, it is my privilege, it is my profound happiness to introduce our own Cheruveli Sir to this great audience. Mr. Cheruveli Sir, please come.
I request Professor Gupta to present the plaque and Mr. Koshia Thomas to present the citation.
We have a citation from New York State Assembly. I have to read this because it's very important, and it is actually going to all these important, prominent stalwarts. Let me read. Whereas a state is only a great citizen, whereas a state is only as great as its citizen, such as Professor Joseph M. Cheruveli, member of Pioneer Club of Carolites in North America, who we award a New York State Assembly citation of merit at the annual get-together and luncheon for his exemplary service to the community. And whereas it is the sense of this legislative body to recognize and commend those individuals of true purpose and high achievement whose exemplary dedication and accomplishment clearly demonstrate the pursuit of excellence in service to the community. And whereas Professor Joseph M. Cheruveli continues to make a mark and to play an integral role in helping to improve the quality of life of our community at large. Now, therefore, be it resolved that as a duly elected member of the State Assembly of New York, I, that is Ed Bronstein, recognize that Professor Joseph M. Cheruvelu, we have an outstanding citizen, one who is worthy of the esteem of both the great state of New York and the United States of America, signed Edward Bronstein, Member of Assembly.
Now I request Mr. Koji Thomas to present the citation to Mr. Professor Joseph Cheruvelu. For the reply speech, I request Mr. Joseph Cheruvelu for 2 minutes, please.
I know time is limited. I have 100 things to say. That's one problem with teachers. I shall try to confine it to 1 or 2. So please bear with me for a couple of minutes, please. First of all, I thank the Pioneer Club and our dynamic leaders, Joni Zakaria, Raju Abraham and others, for organizing this fantastic gathering during this time of Thanksgiving. Secondly, I thank my friend, Honorable Vinod Kiyarke, my colleague in Kerala Samajam, my dear friend, for saying those kind words about me. And thirdly, please give me that rose flower. I thank my wife who puts up with me day in and day out. We don't agree on everything, but she's the one who keeps me alive. Yes. Her name is Rose, and this rose is for you.
You can see, please stay.
I have a few more things to say. You know, this morning, when I was waking up, I asked myself what this award or honor means. It means a lot to me. We are all pioneers. We all came with practically nothing. We worked hard. We had challenges. We had struggles. We had pains. Pains all over the body, physical, mental, emotional. But somehow we survived. We got an education. We got some job. We raised families. We educated our children. And some of us have also been lucky with our grandchildren. And during this time of Thanksgiving, which is a unique American holiday, it is time for all of us to be thankful. Let's first be thankful to God. Let's be thankful to the people who helped us to come here and get established here. Let's be thankful to each other all the time. You know, this is November. It's already cold. Do you know why Thanksgiving is celebrated in November? Because the Pilgrim Fathers who came here in 1620, and they came not in a passenger ship, they came in a cargo ship. And during their journey across the Atlantic, it took them 2 months. 1/3 of them died of malnutrition and were buried at sea. 102 came, landed. History says they landed on Plymouth Rock. They landed in knee-deep mud. They came on November 15. Already it was winter in Massachusetts. And during that winter, of the 102 people, 1/3 of them died and were buried there. We think of our sacrifices. Think of the true sacrifices of those people who came with nothing and struggled against the cold. Their leader, William Bradford, his wife fell off the ship and died right under his doors. These men sacrificed so much. And when they traveled, when their children traveled across the United States to California, hundreds of them died. And even after we came to America, many American young people died for freedom and democracy all over the world. So we have to identify ourselves with America. We are not here to make money and go home. We are here because America is our home, God's gift to us. So identify with this country. Feel at home in this country. I want to conclude by singing 4 lines. I know it is late. This song was composed by an immigrant like us about 100 years ago. And this is the song. This land is my land, this land is your land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me. God bless you. God bless America.
Thank you, Professor Chervelli. That is so inspiring. The next awardee is Mrs. Veronica Thanikat, to be introduced by Mrs. Mary Phillip, and welcome flower by Mrs. Elia Ma Suriak. Please come forward.
How many members can come to the stage? Francis came from Washington today.
Mrs. Mary Phillip, please come forward. Okay.
I'm humbled, honored, and privileged to introduce one of the honorary today is none other than Mrs. Veronica Thanikat. Mrs. Thanikat was born in Kuninyi, Idiki district, Kodamangalam diocese. After the schooling in Kerala, she went to Bombay for nursing and completed her nursing education from CT Hospital, Bombay. RN tutor training at All India Medical Institute, New Delhi. She then got married to Mr. late Anthony Thanikat and migrated to USA in the year 1975. Mr. Francis Thanikat was their blessed son. He, his wife, and 3 grandchildren live in Washington, D.C., but they are here today. We are so happy for that. I never expected that. Mrs. Thanikat was working at the hospital as an RN in Wyckoff Hospital Medical Center. And then she moved to Veterans Hospital, New York City. She received many awards for the best performance in nursing. Charity work is in her blood. Now I realize that one small little water bottle can help someone who is in need. She is always working for others. She helped many nurses with the poor background to come to United States of America. She helped many poor people, students, for their education in India. She contributed generously for home for homeless, medical aids, and also she helped many children to go to school and seminary, and notably from the proceeds from the recycling help from one poor family. With this, let me introduce Mrs. Veronica Tanika.
Now for a 2 words reply. Say a few words.
I thank you all so much, and I don't know how much should I thank you, because I never expected this to happen today, but this is all prepared by the people here, which I was not told about it. Anyway, I'm so happy to be here and to see all the people, all our friends. And my son had just come yesterday, that is Francis from Maryland. And he is here too. So I'm thankful to God for all the blessings that He has done to me. And I am not from a rich family, but I am not a poor. I am from a ordinary poor family. And I was one of 10 kids. I was number 7. So this is how I happened to be. I came to the United States in 1975, and I was here as a nurse. I worked, and then I went for higher studies, and I became a nursing instructor, and I was teaching nursing, and I was supervising and holding nursing places so many years. So this is what happened. I have helped so many people in Kerala, India, all over. Okay? So my name is Veronica. In our way of the cross, we say Veronica wiped the face of Jesus. And I used to say, I don't have only to wipe the face, I have to wipe the whole body. Because
Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you, Ronnie. The next awardee is Mr. George C. Arakel. He is an engineer by profession, worked in various capacities for the Metropolitan Transit Authority and Port Authority. Please come forward. He is to be introduced by our dear L.C. Shankaratil Kochama, and a welcome flower by Mr. Saji Koikile. Please come. Saji. Now Kachama is going to introduce George Siyarakil, our beloved George Chai.
Good afternoon, executives of the podium. Good afternoon, executives of the podium and special guests and awardees. It's a privilege. I'm so humbled and happy to be here to introduce our friend. He has been our friend for a long time. First of all, I have to salute my late pioneer, Very Reverend Dr. Yohanan Chandratil Korpiskopa. Now I am a loner. I'm a zero. I have written a poem that Purna Sankhyayodu Chernnu Nilkile Pujyarayi Vareyulladayi Varum. When the whole number is gone and the zero has no value. But thank you for letting me introduce Mr. Arakil, our close friend, and I'm not going far from here. Mr. Arakil was born in Puthankuris and Kumali. He and his late wife was immigrated to the USA in the year 1978. I remember his late wife Susan, and their house was at the board of so many guests, the religious leaders, the bishops and everything. And I remember in 1992 when our Northeastern Association Bishop Barnabas Trimeni came, there was a meeting and Susan was their close neighbor, and she was talking that Trimeni, oh, there is no problem, I am here. We are here to help you. You could call us anytime. You could come to our house. And then after that, everybody started calling her. No problem, Susan. And then he is blessed with a son. What's his name? His name is Alan and his wife Pamela and 3 beautiful children. They live in Connecticut. And he was educated in India, in Kerala. He took his BS from Kerala University and BSc in engineering from the University of Trivandrum, University of Engineering College of Trivandrum, and then he worked in Kuwait, and then after that he was immigrated here, and he started working, I don't know in the beginning, but many worked, and he worked for so many years for the MGA, and he came as a capital program management, and then he's retired. Now I don't know where he lives in Belrose. His wife since his wife passed away, I have not much contact with them. Okay, and now he's doing a lot of charitable works in India. And they are very, very good. It's a good asset to our community. Thank you all very much. Thank you for letting me introduce him. Thank you.
Now I request Mr. Professor Gupta to present the plaque and Mr. Koshio Thomas to present the citation. Thank you. Georgian, you want to say a few words? Georgian, you want to say a few words, please?
Thank you all for inviting me for this great honor. It's a real privilege to see some of you and to be included as one of the member of your community. But reminded of some of the old things. When the great Krishna Menon was staying in London, he used to say a lawyer or something, and he organized a club called India Club in Charing Cross Road. And many of our Indian people who lived in Oxford or Cambridge or Manchester, they came all the way from that place to come to the India Club and have a meal. For one meal, they could travel for so many, like that. So many of us are familiar, and There is a divine feeling inside all of us to have to meet somebody like you and to talk to them and to enjoy their company. And I am glad we pioneers, the leaders of this pioneer club have that kind of divine feeling, and I am glad that they invited me for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John Chayan. And the next one is Mr. Thomas Manivela. Thomas Manivela is to be introduced by Mr. J. Matthews and welcome flower by Mrs. Gracie Paul. Thomas Manivela hails from Mayur, Kottayam and served his professional life as an educator. He taught science at Yorktown Heights for 30 years and retired as an head of the department. Please come. J. Matthews, Gracie Paul, please welcome. Mr. J. Matthews to introduce you.
No matter where you are, do not forget the roots. My root and the root of Mr. Thomachan is Malayalam. Let me speak in Malayalam. അരനൂറ്റാണ്ടിനപ്പുറത്ത്, കൃത്യം പറഞ്ഞാൽ 54 വർഷങ്ങൾക്ക് മുൻപ് ഒഹായോ യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റിയിൽ നിന്നും സ്കോളർഷിപ്പോടുകൂടി പഠിക്കാൻ വന്ന ഒരു വിദ്യാർത്ഥിയെയാണ് ഞാൻ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തുക. വന്നത് കെമിസ്ട്രി പഠിക്കാനാണെങ്കിലും അദ്ദേഹം തുടർന്ന് 30 വർഷം ന്യൂയോർക്ക് ഹൈറ്റ്സ് സ്കൂളിൽ കെമിസ്ട്രി പഠിപ്പിച്ചു. നൂറുകണക്കിന് വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളുടെ ആരാധ്യനായ അധ്യാപകൻ. പഠിപ്പിച്ചത് കെമിസ്ട്രി ആണെങ്കിലും അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ഇഷ്ടം ഭാഷയാണ്. തമിഴ്, ഹിന്ദി, ഫ്രഞ്ച് ഈ ഭാഷകളിൽ സുന്ദരമായി സംസാരിക്കും, മലയാളത്തിനും ഇംഗ്ലീഷിനും പുറമെ. ചുരുക്കി പറയട്ടെ, അദ്ദേഹം നല്ലൊരു അയൽക്കാരനാണ്. എണീറ്റ് അപ്പുറത്തും ഇപ്പുറത്തുള്ള വീട്ടുകാരോട് എന്തൊട്ട് വിശേഷം എന്ന് ചോദിക്കാൻ മറക്കില്ല. നല്ലൊരു ഭർത്താവായിരുന്നു എന്നേ പറയാൻ നിവൃത്തിയുള്ളൂ. കാരണം അന്നക്കുട്ടി ഇന്ന് നമ്മുടെ ഓർമ്മകളിലേ ജീവിക്കുന്നുള്ളൂ. നല്ലൊരു പിതാവാണ്. ലിസ കൊച്ചുമക്കളുണ്ട്. അവരുടെ കളിയും ചിരിയും കണ്ട് അദ്ദേഹം ആനന്ദത്തോടെ ജീവിക്കുന്നു. 1-2 കാര്യങ്ങൾ കൂടി പറയട്ടെ അദ്ദേഹത്തെ പറ്റി. ആദർശപരമായ കാര്യങ്ങളിൽ കല്ലാണ് അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ മനസ്സ്. അതേസമയത്ത് സൗഹൃദം വരുമ്പോൾ വെള്ളം പോലെ അത് അലിയും. ഇദ്ദേഹം പ്രസംഗിക്കുമ്പോൾ എന്താണ് പ്രസംഗിക്കേണ്ടത് എന്ന് ഉചിതമായ വാക്കുകളും സന്ദർഭവും തിരഞ്ഞെടുത്ത് സംസാരിക്കും. അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ 1-2 ചരമപ്രസംഗങ്ങൾ ഇന്നും എൻ്റെ മനസ്സിൽ ഓർമ്മയിൽ നിൽക്കുന്നു. മരിച്ചയാളിൻ്റെ ഗുണഗണങ്ങൾ വർണ്ണിക്കുകയും ആ മരിച്ചതിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്കുള്ള ദുഃഖം ആവർത്തിച്ചാവർത്തിയും പറയുന്ന സ്വഭാവം അദ്ദേഹത്തിനില്ല. മരിച്ചയാൾ നമുക്ക് തന്ന ലെഗസി എന്ത്, അതെങ്ങനെ ഉൾക്കൊള്ളാൻ നമുക്ക് കഴിയും എന്ന് ഉപദേശിക്കുന്നതായിരിക്കും അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രസംഗം. മരിച്ചയാൾ മരിക്കുന്നില്ല, പക്ഷേ നമ്മൾ ജീവിക്കണം എന്ന് ഉത്ബോധിപ്പിക്കുന്ന ചരമപ്രസംഗം അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രത്യേക ശൈലിയാണ്. ഏത് വിഷയത്തെപ്പറ്റി സംസാരിക്കും. ചരിത്രം ആണ് അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ഏറ്റവും ഇഷ്ടമുള്ള വിഷയം. കുരിശുയുദ്ധങ്ങളും 1-ാം ലോക മഹായുദ്ധവും ഇപ്പോൾ നടക്കുന്ന ഗാസ ഇസ്രായേൽ യുദ്ധവും ഒക്കെ അദ്ദേഹം കാണാപ്പാഠം പഠിച്ചതുപോലെ നമ്മളോട് പറയും. ഇനി ഒരു കാര്യം കൂടി പറയട്ടെ. മണിമല എന്നാണ് അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ലാസ്റ്റ് നെയിം. പക്ഷേ പഠിപ്പിച്ച കുട്ടികൾ അധികവും ഇംഗ്ലീഷുകാരാണ്. മണിമല എന്ന് പേര് പറയാൻ അവർക്ക് ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടാണ്. അവർ മണിമാല എന്നാണ് പറയുക. ശരിയാണ് ആ പേര്. നന്മകളുടെ പൊന്മണികൾ ഓർത്ത് സൗഹൃദത്തിൻ്റെ സ്വർണ്ണനൂലിൽ കോട്ടിണക്കിയ ഒരു മണിമാല തന്നെയാണ് തോമസ്. അദ്ദേഹത്തെ ഞാൻ പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു.
for a few words in reply, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you much, Sarah, for those kind words. അത് കേട്ടപ്പം ഞാൻ ഓർത്ത് ഇത് എന്നെ പറ്റിയാണോ ഈ പറയുന്നത്? സാറിന് ഞാനിപ്പോഴും ഒരു അസൈൻമെന്റ് തരുന്നു. ഞാൻ മരിക്കുമ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ ചരമപ്രസംഗം മാത്യു സാർ എഴുതേണ്ടി വരും. പക്ഷേ ഞാൻ മരിക്കുന്നതിന് മുമ്പ് ആ ചരമപ്രസംഗം എഴുതി മരിക്കുന്നതിന് മുമ്പ് എന്നെ വായിച്ചു കേൾക്കും. Now, thank you. A big thank you to the organizers of this event for selecting me to receive this honor. And I can proudly say that I was one of the very first pioneers who Chakochan invited me to his basement, where we met for the very first time. Since then, I have been a pioneer, and that's with regard to my pioneering life. Now, I was listening to Professor, and there is something very common to Professor Guptana and me. I lost my father when I was 4 years old, 3.5, 4 years old, just like he did. And since then, like he said, we were from a middle class family. But then because my father died and my mother was very young, and my brothers were very young, so we had to go through periods of difficulty. And like Koshi Thomas said, I believed in divine providence, and the divine providence helped me along my way to every step in my life was guided by divine providence. Coming to the United States, getting my first job, going through my school life, always the divine providence was with me. And in addition to that, I also have to say that while we are all pioneers, there have been pioneers long before us, long before we were born. There were pioneers from Kerala, at that time, Thiruvidankor, to the United States. Recently, I went to Mount Hope Cemetery. How many of you know where Mount Hope Cemetery is? Probably some of you have attended funerals there. It is in Hastings on Hudson. And I was there, and guess what I came across? A tombstone from 1944. And what was the name on the tombstone? Valsa Anna Mathai. And some of you know who John Mathai was. John Mathai was one of the first Malayalis to go to London, go to the London School of Economics, got a degree. He was an engineer. He came back to India, and he was the director of the Tata Locomotive Division. And he sent his daughter, Anna, to study in 1944. Cheruvil sir വന്നതിനെപ്പറ്റി നിങ്ങളെല്ലാവരും സംസാരിച്ചല്ലോ. Remember, it was 1944, during the Second World War. She came by ship to Columbia University to study communication, journalism. And she had not seen snow in her life. So November, at the first snowstorm, she went out at 11 o'clock at night, and she was never seen again by anybody. And because John Mathai was an influential person in the Tata organization, their organization and the government of the United States and New York City, they all searched for her all over the place. And finally, the commissioner of the police said, she probably drowned in the Hudson River. In those days, Hudson River used to freeze. And the only time you are going to see her is if there is a thunderstorm and the ice will break and the body will be thrown out. Sure enough, 2 months later, her body was found on the banks of the Hudson River in Yonkers. And she was buried with honors at the Mount Hope Cemetery. And nice tombstone. And there have been more pioneers like that. And so this got me interested in pioneers from Kerala. In 1908, I don't know how he came here, a pioneer, Devasahayam. His name was Devasahayam. He came here to study at Wesleyan University in Ohio. And there was a very interesting anecdote about him. He went to visit the US Senate and Capitol building. And he had no idea what all these cubicles were. There was one cubicle meant for the Senate, the majority leader of the Senate. And this man, with a bright red turban, went in there and sat at his table. And people were wondering, who is this guy? So, and, but those days, life was so easygoing, they didn't bother about it. And he went back to the Methodist University, Wesleyan University, and he went back to India and became a missionary. So there have been many more pioneers before us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And the next one in line is Mrs. Theresia Makurian. Please come forward to be introduced by Mrs. Leela Marat, and a flower welcome by Mrs. Ali Thotam. We are running exactly 45 to 50 minutes late, so please cooperate. Please come forward. Mrs. Ali Thotam, you need help, please? The family also can come forward to the stage, please. The family of Mrs. Theresia Makurian, please come to the stage. Now I would like to request Mrs. Ali Thotam to welcome with a flower. Yeah, take a picture. And Mrs. Leela Marat to introduce officially Mrs. Theresia Makurian. Thank you.
Chief guest, Professor Guptana, President Johnny Zakaria, Secretary Raju Abraham, all pioneer committee members, dear friends. First of all, let me applaud the Pioneer Executive Committee for doing an excellent job this year in visiting the sick and the funeral services they have to attend. You know, every day or every month, a lot of our dear ones have departed from us, and the outstanding job and services you are doing is amazing. My in-laws and my husband were pioneers. They migrated to United States in 1968. And since its inception from 2002, I am active in the Pioneer Club. I attend all the meetings I can. Now, let me introduce Mrs. Theresia Makurian. I am privileged and humbled to introduce Mrs. Kurian. Mrs. Kurian was born at Kidangara, Changanasheri. After her schooling, she went to Jabalpur, MP, and studied nursing and midwifery at Victoria Hospital and Lady Elgin Hospital. After nursing education, she moved to Delhi and worked at All India Institute of Medical Science at Delhi, and then migrated to Honolulu, USA in the year 1972. And after working there for some time as RN, she moved to New York. In New York, she worked at Jewish Memorial, Fort Tryon Nursing Home, Harlem Hospital, Union Hospital Bronx, St. Barnabas Hospital Bronx, Jamaica Hospital, and Northwell Health System. Mrs. Kurian and late Vijay Kurian were blessed with 2 children, Asha Mampalli and Johnny Kurian, and 3 grandchildren. Notable accomplishments and charity work include head nurse, thoracic and neurosurgery departments at All India Institute of Medical Science, New Delhi. Best Operating Room Nurse Award winner. Sponsored, helped to migrate and supported many family members. Charity work for education and home for homeless. Donated 4 acres of ancestral property, rubber plantation at Mangapara, Kanjirapalli for the needy and homeless people. I still remember Mr. late Vijay Kurian, husband of Mrs. Teresia Kurian, who was the president and proud member of India Catholic Association. He was the president in 1989 and was happy to work with him at that time in the India Catholic Association. So I am humbled, privileged to introduce you Mrs. Teresia Kurian.
Thank you. Negotiate Thomas to present the citation. Thank you. And Kurian Chechi to say a few words. Say a few words, please.
ഇന്ന് ഇവിടെ വന്ന എല്ലാ ഭാരവാഹികൾക്കും എനിക്ക് വലുതായ ഈ അവാർഡ് തന്നതിനും ഞാൻ വളരെ നന്ദിയുള്ളവരായിരിക്കുന്നു. ഉദയഞ്ചേട്ടനോടും എൻ്റെ മക്കളോടും കുടുംബത്തോടും ചെയ്ത എല്ലാ ബഹുമാനത്തിനും നന്ദിക്കും സ്നേഹത്തിനും ഞാൻ ഭയങ്കര ക്ലബിനെ നന്ദി പറയുന്നു, സ്നേഹം പറയുന്നു. ഇനിയെങ്കിലും ഞാനിതിൻ്റെ മെമ്പറാണെങ്കിലും എൻ്റെ മക്കൾക്ക് ഇതിൽ ഭാരമുണ്ട്. എല്ലാ മംഗളങ്ങളും ഞാൻ ഈ പൈനിയർ ക്ലബിന് പ്രത്യേകം ആശംസകൾ നൽകുന്നു. താങ്ക് യു.
Thank you very much. Please be seated on the stage. Now, Mrs. Mary Joseph Akrakalam, and to be introduced by Mrs. Daisy Thomas, and flower by Teresia Matoyale. Please come. Mary Joseph Akrakalam was born in Charupungal, Palai, and worked for MedLife, earning the Best Employee of the Award during her career. She is actually basically a teacher. Now I'd like to request Daisy Thomas to come forward and Teresia Matoyalil to welcome Mary Joseph by giving the flower, and also the family members. Please come forward to the stage. Marianne, thank you.
I may be the shortest person to introduce this our dear Mary. I am privileged and honored to introduce her. അമ്മിണി അക്കരക്കുളം പാലായിലെ ചേർപ്പുങ്കൽ ജനിച്ച് കോളേജ് വിദ്യാഭ്യാസത്തിന് ശേഷം പഞ്ചാബിൽ ഉപരിപഠനം നടത്തി. അവിടെ തന്നെ അധ്യാപികയും ആയി. 1969 ജോസഫ് അക്കരക്കുളത്തിനോടൊപ്പം USA-ൽ എത്തിച്ചേർന്നു. 3 മക്കൾ റോസ്മെരി, ലിസ, മേരിയാൻ. മെഡ് ലൈഫിൽ ജോലി ചെയ്ത് റിട്ടയറായി. These are her backgrounds. Mrs. Mary Joseph Akkarakalam, Best Employee of the Year Award from MedLife. Volunteer service at nursing home in College Point, New York City. Charity contribution for orphanages and schools, marriage aid, education, etc. Built a chapel for Cherpungal Medicity Hospital by selling a house resort at Vagaman and proceeds used for this chapel. Sponsored and supported family members to migrate to USA. So let me introduce Mrs. Mary Joseph Akkarakalam.
Professor Gupta to present the plaque and Mr. Koshio Thomas to present the citation. They have done a big donation for building the chapel. It's almost a crore, so they don't want to mention that. So I really appreciate for their generosity for the community. Now the next one and the last one is Dr. George Oracle. Yes.
Thank you for this great award, and I'm so grateful. It is so. I'm so generous. I'm honored and privileged to get this award today. It is my pleasure to receive this award.
Marianne, you can say a few words for mom. Please, thank you.
First, want to thank or congratulate every recipient of this award today. Your work, including my mom, to build the Malayali community has left something for your children, including myself, which has helped us to build lifelong friendships. So we do truly thank you for your efforts in building this community. As for my mom, I thank everyone on her behalf. Thank you for everything you have done.
Thank you very much. Yeah, please mom and please be seated on the stage. And now is Dr. George Oracle. He came to the US with a DHMS degree and after obtaining as an MD, worked as a medical consultant for insurance companies. I would like to request Dr. Josephina Jacob to come forward and welcome by Mrs. Valsama Palatara. Okay, Valsama Palatara is not here, so Gracie Mohan will give the flower. The family members, please come to the stage. Thank you. Just stay next to Dr. George Oracle and have a picture. Thank you. Now I request Dr. Josephina Jacob to introduce officially Dr. George Arakan. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and congratulations to all the honorees of the Pioneer Club members. Thank you for all the committee members to arranging all this occasion. It is my privilege and a pleasure to introduce Dr. George Arakan. Dr. Arakan was born at Kodimada, Kottayam, and after his education in Homeo College, Kottayam, and obtaining his BHMS degree, he migrated to America in the year 1968. In America, he pursued his studies in medicine and joined at Northstana University, San Francisco, de Marcores, Dominican Republic, and obtained MD degree. He then started working as a medical consultant with the medical insurance companies from 1982 to 1990. Then he worked as a private medical consultant and retired in the year 2013. He also owned and operated a medical and surgical supply business in Long Island. He and his wife, Valsa Arakan, she is a private Catholic school teacher, were blessed with one daughter, Dr. Anne Arakan, and they have one grandson. Dr. Anne Arakan and her husband, Dr. Chris Raju, lives in Stony Brook, New York. And again, it's my privilege to introduce Dr. George Arakan.
Now all the awardees will be while they're seated on the stage. Yeah, please go ahead, viewers, please, thank you.
I am very grateful and honored for me and other 7 members of the club, and also I thank you, President of the Pioneer Club and Secretary and Executive Committee members who selected for me and 7 members. And also I thank you and for all the people who are here for this event. And I also thank you for everybody. God bless. That's all I thank you.
Thank you very much. Now all the awardees will be seated and the officials will be standing behind for a picture. Then we will go back to the floor. Thank you. Then we have a couple more minutes to conduct a couple of things, and after that we will start the lunch, and it is already running late.
Secretary. Right here, right.
Okay.
Please help the awardees to get down from the podium to the floor, and we are going to present the accounts by our treasurer, Mr. John Paul.
I'll make it very short. Don't worry about it. Before, that is, in the beginning, I'm not telling you the details, there was $346 in our account, and later on, in the period of Jacob George, $235, and now we have total $581 at the starting money. Today we have current balance 9,484.29 cents, and membership fees out of that is 8,250, and it goes on to CD, and we have to petty cash money. We have 1,234.29 cents balance in our cash account. Thank you very much.
Now I request Mr. Thomas Palatra to come and deliver the water thanks. We also appreciate the presence of Mr. Chako Koikalit and Mr. Sabu Lupos from ECO. Thank you.
Good afternoon. വളരെ സംഭവബഹുലമായ ഒരു ചടങ്ങുകൾക്ക് സാക്ഷ്യം വഹിച്ചുകൊണ്ടാണ് പയനിയർ ക്ലബ്ബ് പുരോഗമിക്കുന്നത്. അമേരിക്കൻ ഐക്യനാടുകളിൽ കുടിയേറിയ നമ്മുടെ മലയാളി സുഹൃത്തുക്കളിൽ നിന്നും ശ്രദ്ധാപൂർവം പയനിയർ ക്ലബ്ബ് തിരഞ്ഞെടുത്ത മഹത് വ്യക്തികളെയാണ് ഇവിടെ ആദരിച്ചത്. ദീർഘമായ പ്രസംഗത്തിന് ഞാൻ മുതിരുന്നില്ല, മറിച്ച് ഒന്ന് രണ്ട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറഞ്ഞില്ലെങ്കിൽ അത് ശരിയാകില്ല എന്ന് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു. എനിക്ക് 51 വർഷത്തെ അമേരിക്കൻ ജീവിത പരിചയമേ ഉള്ളൂ. എന്നേക്കാൾ മുമ്പ് വന്നവരുമുണ്ട്, അതിനുശേഷം വന്നവരുമുണ്ട്. ഇത്തരം ഒരു ക്ലബിന് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു പ്രസ്ഥാനത്തിന് രൂപം കൊടുത്ത വ്യക്തികളെ ആദരിക്കുമ്പോൾ അച്ചോയെ ഞാൻ ഓർത്തു പോവുകയാണ്. മൺമറഞ്ഞ അച്ചോയുടെ പാതാരബന്ധങ്ങളില് സ്നേഹത്തിന്റെ പുഞ്ചിരിപ്പൂക്കൾ അർപ്പിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് മൺമറഞ്ഞു പോയ നമ്മുടെ പയനിയർമാരുടെയും മറ്റ് മലയാളികളുടെയും ഓർമ്മകളില് അവരുടെ ആത്മാക്കൾക്ക് നിത്യശാന്തി നേർന്നുകൊണ്ട് തുടരട്ടെ. ഈ സംഘടനയെ കഴിഞ്ഞ ഏതാനും മാസങ്ങൾ കൊണ്ട് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു വർഷത്തിന് കൊണ്ട് ഇത്ര വലിയൊരു പ്രസ്ഥാനമാക്കി മാറ്റാൻ സാധിച്ചത് ചുറുചുറുക്കുള്ള ഒരു ചെറുപ്പക്കാരൻ്റെ എന്തെന്ന് പറയുന്നതാണ് കൃത്യമായ വാക്ക്. ജോണി സാക്കറിയയെ ഞാൻ ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ അഭിനന്ദിക്കുകയാണ്. ലേഡീസ് ആൻഡ് ജെന്റിൽമെൻ, ഗിവ് എ ബിഗ് ഹാൻഡ്. അഹോരാത്രം പണിയെടുത്ത ഒരാൾ. എൻ്റെ അരനൂറ്റാണ്ട് കാലത്തെ പരിചയത്തിനിടയിൽ ഒരു വർഷം കൊണ്ട് ഇത്രയധികം ശക്തി പ്രാപിച്ച ഒരു സംഘടന അമേരിക്കയിൽ ഇല്ല എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് എനിക്ക് അഭിമാനമാണുള്ളത്. VM ചാക്കോച്ചൻ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ VM ചാക്കോയെ ഞാൻ ഓർക്കുന്നത് അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ റെസ്റ്റോറൻ്റാണ്. അങ്ങനെ ഒത്തിരി പേരുകളുണ്ട്. കുഞ്ഞിമോൻ പഠിച്ചു വന്ന കാലത്ത് ഞാനൊരു വിദ്യാർത്ഥിയായിട്ട് വന്നതാണ്. അങ്ങനെ ഒത്തിരി ആളുകൾ, അവരെ കുറിച്ചൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞാൽ നീണ്ടുപോകും. പറയട്ടെ, ഈ പ്രവർത്തനം ആരംഭിച്ച് ഇതിനോട് സഹകരണം കൊടുത്ത്
ഇവിടെ വന്ന നിങ്ങളെ ഓരോരുത്തരെയും ഞാൻ അഭിനന്ദിക്കുകയാണ്. ഇന്ന് കാണുന്നവരെ നാളെ കാണുകയില്ല എന്നുള്ളത് നമ്മൾ മറന്നു പോകരുത്. കാരണം വാർദ്ധക്യത്തിന്റെ വഴിയിലൂടെ കടന്നു പോകുമ്പോൾ ഇത്തരം അവസര വേദികളാണ് നമുക്ക് തമ്മിൽ കാണാനുള്ള, ഓർമ്മകൾ പുതുക്കാനുള്ള. എൻ്റെ അനുഭവം തന്നെ പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഞാനിന്ന് വളരെയധികം സന്തുഷ്ടനാണ്. കാരണം ഈ കാണുന്ന ഓരോ മുഖവും എനിക്ക് പരിചയപ്പെടുന്നതാണ്. പക്ഷേ എത്രയോ നാളുകളായി ഒന്ന് കണ്ടിട്ട്, ഒരുമിച്ച് കണ്ടിട്ട്, നിങ്ങൾ വന്നതിന് ഒത്തിരി സന്തോഷം. നിങ്ങൾ നൽകുന്ന പ്രചോദനത്തിന് ഒത്തിരി സന്തോഷം. ഇനി പറയട്ടെ, ഇന്നത്തെ വിശിഷ്ടാതിഥിയായി വന്ന മിസ്റ്റർ ഗുപ്താരയ്ക്ക് അഭിനന്ദനങ്ങൾ. ഏതാനും പേരുകൾ മാത്രമേ എനിക്ക് താങ്ക്സ് പറയാനുള്ളൂ. എൻ്റെ കയ്യിൽ 2 പേജ് നിറച്ചുള്ള ആളുകളുടെ പേരുണ്ട്, ഇവിടുത്തെ സംഘടനകളുടെ നേതാക്കന്മാരുടെ പേരുണ്ട്. അവർക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒരൊറ്റ വാക്കിൽ ഞാൻ നന്ദി പറയുന്നു. എന്നാലും നമ്മളെ അഭിനന്ദിക്കുകയും അപ്രീഷിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുകയും ചെയ്യുന്ന ന്യൂയോർക്ക് സ്റ്റേറ്റ് അസംബ്ലിമാൻ ഇന്ന് വന്നില്ലെങ്കിലും അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ പ്രതിനിധിയിലൂടെ ഇവിടെ ആദരിക്കപ്പെട്ട വ്യക്തികൾക്ക് മൊമെന്റോസ് നൽകിവിട്ട എഡ്വേർഡ് ബ്രോൺസ്റ്റീനോടുള്ള അഭിനന്ദനം ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുകയാണ്. പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് പറയാനുള്ളത്, ഇന്നാണ് ഞാൻ ആദ്യമായിട്ട് ഒരു വേദിയിൽ ഏറ്റവും മുമ്പിൽ ഇരിക്കുന്ന ഒരാളെ കണ്ടത്. സാധാരണ അദ്ദേഹം പുറകിൽ എവിടെയെങ്കിലൊക്കെയാണ് ഇരിക്കാറുള്ളത്. നമ്മൾക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും മലയാളികൾക്ക് ആവശ്യത്തിലും കൂടുതലുമുള്ള വിവരങ്ങൾ നൽകുന്ന നമ്മുടെ പ്രിയപ്പെട്ട ജോർജ് ജോസഫ്, ഈ മലയാളിയെ ഞാൻ പ്രത്യേകം അഭിനന്ദിക്കുകയാണ്. താങ്ക് യു. കോശിയോ തോമസിനോടുള്ള പ്രത്യേകം നന്ദി ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ ഞാൻ രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. അദ്ദേഹമാണ് നമുക്ക് ഈ അവാർഡുകൾക്കുള്ള മൊമെന്റോസ് എത്തിച്ചു തന്നത്. കൂടാതെ ഈ സംഘടനയെ നോൺ പ്രോഫിറ്റ് സ്റ്റാറ്റസിലേക്ക് എത്തിക്കുന്നതിന് വേണ്ട എല്ലാ സഹായവും ചെയ്തു തന്ന ജെയിൻ ജേക്കബ്, അദ്ദേഹം ഇവിടെ വന്നിട്ടില്ല എങ്കിലും അദ്ദേഹത്തോടുള്ള നന്ദി ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുകയാണ്. നമുക്ക് വേണ്ട എല്ലാ ഫോട്ടോകളും ഇവിടെ എടുത്തു തന്ന ശ്രീ ജോസഫ് കുമ്പനാടനോടുള്ള നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. കൈരളി ടിവിയുടെ ജോസ് കാളാപുറത്തോടുള്ള നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. ഇവിടെ ആത്മീയമായ കാര്യങ്ങളിൽ നമ്മളെ സഹായിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള എല്ലാ പുരോഹിതർക്കും പാസ്റ്റർമാർക്കും നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. ഈ ഹോള് നമുക്ക് തന്ന ഇവിടുത്തെ പാസ്റ്റർ, എൻ്റെ പ്രിയ സുഹൃത്ത് വർക്കി വർഗീസിനോടുള്ള നന്ദി ഞാൻ ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. ഓഡിയോ സിസ്റ്റം കൈകാര്യം ചെയ്യുന്ന റെജിയോടുള്ള നന്ദി ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. I would like to recognize ചാക്കോ കോയിക്കലർ വേൾഡ് മലയാളി കൗൺസിലിനോടുള്ള നന്ദി ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. എല്ലാത്തിനും ഉപരിയായിട്ട് എൻ്റെ പ്രിയ കുട്ടനാടൻ സുഹൃത്ത് നല്ല ഭംഗിയായ ഒരു പ്രസംഗം നൽകി. അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് പ്രസംഗിക്കാൻ കൊടുത്താൽ തന്നെ നിർത്തില്ല. കാരണം അറിവിന്റെ ഭണ്ഡാരമാണ്, അത് തുറന്നാൽ അത്ര എളുപ്പമല്ല അടയ്ക്കാനായിട്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ പ്രിയ സുഹൃത്തെ ചെറുവേലി സാറിനോടുള്ള നന്ദിയും അദ്ദേഹത്തെ കൂടെ വന്ന അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ പ്രിയതമ റോസമ്മയോടുള്ള നന്ദിയും രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. ഈ അസോസിയേഷന്റെ കണക്കുകളെല്ലാം കൈകാര്യം ചെയ്യുന്ന നമ്മുടെ ട്രഷറർക്കുള്ള നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. എന്നോടൊപ്പവും നമ്മുടെ ജോണി സാഗരിയായോടും രാജുവിനോടും ഒപ്പം പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്ന എല്ലാ ഭാരവാഹികൾക്കും കമ്മിറ്റി മെമ്പേഴ്സിനും ഈ കൂടിയിരിക്കുന്ന ഓരോരുത്തരും നിങ്ങളുടെ നിറഞ്ഞ പുഞ്ചിരികള്, നിങ്ങളുടെ സാന്നിധ്യം നമ്മളെ ഏവരെയും ഒന്നാക്കി മാറ്റുകയാണ്. പഴയകാല ഓർമ്മകളിലേക്ക് നമ്മൾ കടന്നു പോവുകയാണ്. ഇനി ആർക്കെങ്കിലും ഞാൻ നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്താൻ മറന്നുപോയിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ, വിട്ടുപോയിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ തോമസ് ട്യൂമറെ ഞാൻ പറയേണ്ട കാര്യമില്ല. അദ്ദേഹം എല്ലാ കാര്യങ്ങളിലും എല്ലായിടത്തും തന്നെ ഉള്ളതാണ്. നമ്മുടെ പ്രിയ നേതാവിന് പ്രിയപ്പെട്ട നന്ദി. ഒത്തിരി ഒത്തിരി നന്ദികളുടെ പൂച്ചെണ്ടുകൾ അർപ്പിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി ഇന്നത്തെ ഈ സമ്മേളനം വിജയകരമാക്കി തീർന്നതിനും നമുക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് വിഭവസമൃദ്ധമായ സദ്യകൾ തയ്യാറാക്കിയിരിക്കുന്ന കേരള കിച്ചണോടുള്ള നന്ദിയും, ഒത്തിരി ഒത്തിരി മീറ്റിങ്ങുകൾ നടത്താൻ അവിടെ അവസരം കിട്ടിയിട്ടുള്ളതാണ്, അവരോടുള്ള നന്ദിയും ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ ഞാൻ രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുകയാണ്. താങ്ക് യു സോ മച്ച് വൺസ് അഗൈൻ. ജോണി സാക്കറിയ, രാജു, ജോൺ പോൾ, കൂടെയുള്ള ഒരാളുടെ പേര് ഞാൻ മറന്നുപോയി, ലോണ. I never forgot you. ഞാനാണ് ജോയിന്റ് സെക്രട്ടറി നോമിനേറ്റ് ചെയ്തതോടെ ഐ ആം സോ പ്രൗഡ് ഓഫ് യു. താങ്ക് യു കുഞ്ഞുമോൻ. എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി നന്ദി. നമസ്കാരം.
At this time, I request Mr. Sabu Lucas and Mr. Alex Istapan to come forward and say a few words. Please, Mr. Sabu Lucas and Alex Istapan. ഞങ്ങൾ ആരെങ്കിലും വിട്ടുപോയെങ്കിലും മനഃപൂർവ്വമല്ല. ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഓർമ്മക്കുറവ്, പ്രായം ഇതൊക്കെ നിങ്ങൾ സഹിച്ച് ഞങ്ങളെ വഹിക്കുമെന്ന് ഞങ്ങൾ ആശിക്കുന്നു. അതുപോലെ എല്ലാ പ്രോഗ്രാമിനും ഏറ്റവും ഭംഗിയായിട്ട് നിങ്ങൾ എല്ലാവരോടും നന്ദി ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി അറിയിക്കുകയാണ്. താങ്ക് യു വെരി മച്ച്.
താങ്ക് യു. നമ്മുടെ കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ഗതകാല സ്മരണകളുമായി നമ്മുടെ സ്വപ്നങ്ങളുടെ ചിറകേന്തി ഈ നോർത്ത് അമേരിക്കയിൽ വന്ന് അധ്വാനിച്ച് ഇവിടെ ഒരു പുതിയ തലമുറയ്ക്ക്, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ഒരു പുതിയ തലമുറയ്ക്ക് ഒരു നേതൃത്വം കൊടുത്ത ഈ അമേരിക്കയുടെ മലയാളി സമൂഹത്തിൻ്റെ ഒരു പരിച്ഛേദനമാണ് നമ്മൾ കണ്ടത്. ഐ ആം സോ പ്രൗഡ് അബൌട്ട് ഇറ്റ്. ഈ പയനിയർ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ക്ലബിൽ കൂടെ നിങ്ങൾ ഒന്നിച്ചു കൂടുക മാത്രമല്ല, പരസ്പരം സ്നേഹിക്കുന്നതിനും കരുതുന്നതിനും നിങ്ങളുടെ അനുഭവങ്ങൾ പങ്കിടുന്നതിനുള്ള ഒരു വേദിയായിട്ടാണ് ഞാനിവിടെ ഇതിനെ കണ്ടത്. ഇത്രയും മനോഹരമാക്കി ചെയ്ത ഈ പയനിയർ ക്ലബിനോടുള്ള പ്രത്യേക നന്ദി ഈ സമയത്ത് അറിയിക്കുന്നു. പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ജോണി സക്കറിയ അങ്കിൾ, വാട്ട് എ അമേസിംഗ് ലീഡർഷിപ്പ്. പ്ലീസ് ഗിവ് ഹിം എ ബിഗ് ഹാൻഡ്. ഞാനിപ്പോൾ ഇവിടുത്തെ റിപ്പോർട്ട് വായിച്ചു നോക്കുമായിരുന്നു. 500-ൽ നിന്ന് 9,000-ലോട്ട് കയറിയ ആ ഒരു മാജിക്ക് എന്നെ കൂടെ പഠിപ്പിക്കണം. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ആൻ അമേസിംഗ്. പൈസ കീപ്പ് ചെയ്ത് മാത്രമല്ല, അതിനനുസൃതമായുള്ള പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളും അവർ മുന്നോട്ട് നയിക്കുന്നു. പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് അതിന്റെ സെക്രട്ടറി ആയിരിക്കുന്ന വർഗീസ് എബ്രഹാം. ഇവരെല്ലാം രണ്ടുപേരും തന്നെ എക്കോ, നിങ്ങൾക്കറിയാം, ഒരു സെന്റൻസ് കൂടെ പറഞ്ഞ് നിർത്തുകയാണ്. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാവുന്നതുപോലെ നമ്മുടെ സീനിയർ സിറ്റിസന് വേണ്ടി ന്യൂയോർക്കിൽ നടത്തുന്ന ഒരു പ്രോഗ്രാമാണ് സീനിയർ വെൽനസ് പ്രോഗ്രാം. എക്കോയുടെ നേതൃത്വത്തിൽ ഏകദേശം 150-200 പേരോളം അതിന്റെ എല്ലാ ഫ്രൈഡേ 4 to 7 ആ പ്രോഗ്രാമിൽ വന്ന് പങ്കെടുക്കുന്നു. ഇവിടെ വളരെയധികം നിങ്ങളൊക്കെ നിങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു ലൈഫ് സ്റ്റോറി ഇവിടെ പങ്കുവെച്ചു. പ്ലീസ് കം ടു അവർ പ്രോഗ്രാം. പ്ലീസ് ഷെയർ യുവർ ലൈഫ് സ്റ്റോറി. പീപ്പിൾ വാണ്ട് ടു ഹിയർ how you survey, how you become successful, how you manage your family. So we want to hear that. ഇതിന്റെ പിന്നിൽ പ്രവർത്തിച്ച എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി അഭിനന്ദനം. താങ്ക് യു വെരി മച്ച്.
Thank you, Sabu. Mr. Alex Istapan, for a few words, please. Thank you. Yes, of course, everybody knows that he's the president of Kerala Center. Thank you very much.
പ്രിയപ്പെട്ട ജോഡി, സെക്രട്ടറി രാജു, ഇവിടെ കൂടിയിരിക്കുന്ന ബഹുമാനപ്പെട്ട പയനിയേഴ്സ് ക്ലബ്ബ് മെമ്പേഴ്സ്, ഇന്ന് അവാർഡ് കിട്ടിയ വിശിഷ്ട വ്യക്തികളെ എല്ലാവർക്കും, ഇന്ന് അവാർഡ് കിട്ടിയ എല്ലാവർക്കും കേരള സെൻറ്ററിൻ്റെ പേരിൽ ഞാൻ വളരെ അഭിനന്ദനം അറിയിക്കുന്നു. ഇന്ന് ഈ കേരള സെൻറ്റർ, ഈ പയനിയർ ക്ലബിന്, നമ്മുടെ പയനിയർ ക്ലബിലെ എല്ലാവർക്കും കേരള സെൻറ്ററിൻ്റെ വാതിലുകൾ തുറന്നിട്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എന്താ ആവശ്യമുണ്ടെങ്കിലും ഞങ്ങളെ നേരിട്ട് അറിയിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ എല്ലാ സൗകര്യങ്ങളും അവിടെ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണ്ടി ഒരുക്കുന്നതായിരിക്കും. എല്ലാ അഭിനന്ദനങ്ങളും അറിയിക്കുന്നു. ഈ സെൻറ്റർ ഈ പരിപാടി ഇത്രയും വിജയകരമായി നടത്തിയ ഇതിൻ്റെ ഭാരവാഹികൾ, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് പ്രസിഡന്റ് ജോഡി സക്കറിയ, സെക്രട്ടറി രാജു എബ്രഹാം, ട്രഷറർ ജോൺ പോൾ, ഇവർക്ക് പ്രത്യേകമായി അഭിനന്ദനങ്ങൾ അർപ്പിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് നിർത്തട്ടെ. താങ്ക് യു.
Thank you, Alex. Really appreciate that. At this time, we'll play some music and we'll start the lunch. It's kind of late. I think we are approximately an hour late from our program. So next year we'll be keeping in mind about this, how to coordinate more effectively, because I think this award program has to be a separate one, so we'll have enough time. So we will take care of that next year. And we once again thank you all, especially our president and all the officials.